So last class, we talked about balls and ball sacks. We had some fun. As I had shared with you with what I was going to do, and I'm going to share my screen. I told you that I was going to create a Google form for you. And for those of you in front of me, it's at the bottom of the Schoology page. You can see it. It says, if you scroll down here, it says repro system, reproductive system. Anonymous questions here. Okay? So if you click on that, it'll have a link right here. Guys, please remember, it's completely anonymous. So you click on the link, it takes you out of Schoology and into a Google form, which looks like this. Okay, and then you ask your question and you hit submit. And now what does that look like on my end? Okay, so I can show you and prove to you that, can you guys see this, right? You can see this? So this is what it looks like on my end. Somebody already asked one question. It says two, but I don't know what this means. One of the questions says, do girls bleed after they lose their virginity? It's a good question. Zoomers at home, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. So again, it's right on the page. I have it written as I'm looking at like a student so that it looks exactly as if you guys were looking at it. So it's right here. It's always going to be there, all unit, for you guys to have opportunities to ask a question. Remember, you can ask more than one question. You can click on the link multiple times here to ask your question, whether it be about your bodies, the reproductive system, male, female, could be about gender, sex, and as we know, there are different types of sex. There's different genders. Although our society has created a world where there are two genders, boy, girl, right? Male, female, blue, pink. And stereotypes, of course, which is completely it is a continuum, is what I like to call it. There's not just two genders. There are different genders. There are different sexes, and there are different sexual orientations. There are different gender identities, and we're going to be talking about all that stuff. And I always believe that a lot of things come from just not knowing, right? The unknown, the ignorance. That's what ignorant means, right? You just don't know. So the more that you learn, the more educated you are in learning about different things, the more you will understand, and the less different it'll be, or different it'll seem. When people don't know something, it comes off as different. When things are different, it can feel uncomfortable, right? It can feel weird. Sometimes it can feel wrong. And so that's where all the hate comes from. Just because it's different or uncomfortable doesn't make it wrong. It just means that maybe some people need to learn and be educated a little bit more, and kind of break free from those stereotypes that we are so used to being around, right? Today we are going to complete the male reproductive system, as I had mentioned before. All right. Let me just get on here. Okay. So if you guys, and you know what? I will actually, I'm sorry, I just want to share my screen one more time. As just a regroup, and it's in guides as usual. It's always in guides, right? We talked about the testicles and the scrotum, epididymis, vas deferens. We talked about the semen, how there's 3 parts to semen. And then we talked about what the parts were of semen, right? Sperm, fluid from the seminal vesicles, and fluid from the prostate gland. Those 3 things, okay? And we talked about when a male ejaculates, that is what semen, that's what comes out. It's called semen. And those are the 3 parts of semen. And if you remember, the seminal vesicles, the fluid that releases from there, give the sperm nutrition for their long journey that we talked about, right? And the prostate gland releases a fluid that calms down or neutralizes the acidity of the female's vagina. If you guys remember the analogy I gave on Friday with, it's like a battlefield, and it wants to, the female's vagina is a battlefield, wants to kill anything that enters, anything, right? And that sperm cannot live in an acidic environment. Just like many other things, as you guys have learned in science class in general. Okay, so that was kind of like the little update, just a little review for us to kind of get on the same page together. So one thing I do want to mention, okay, there is another part of the male reproductive system called the Cowper's gland. The Cowper's gland. Now, the Cowper's gland also releases a fluid. It also releases a fluid. This fluid is not a part of semen, though. And this is where it can get tricky because people think, oh, it's a fluid, and they automatically think it's part of the semen. But if you guys have those notes from Friday, then you're good. All right? So the Cowper's gland releases a milky fluid that lubricates the male's urethra. Now, someone tell me what is the male's urethra? What's a urethra? Does anyone know? Females have urethra too. Everyone.
Isn't it the tube that the urine travels through?
Yeah, good. It's the tube in the penis, guys. Gentlemen, you should have known this answer. I would have thought. The urethra is the tube that extends from the bladder through the prostate gland and through the penis. Okay, it is the tube in the penis, and it is the outlet for semen, ejaculation, right, and urine, pee. Both. Give you guys a second to write that down. So this is where it gets a little tricky, right? So this urethra is the outlet for both pee, urine, and semen, which comes out through ejaculation. It's the same tube. Females, on the other hand, and I always make this joke, they're cleaner. Sorry, gentlemen. Females are cleaner because females do also have a urethra. But when we start talking about the female reproductive system, you guys are going to learn that the urethra is not a part of the female reproductive system because it's a separate whole. It is not part of the reproductive system for females. Males, on the other hand, they use the same tube for both pee and semen. So I always make that joke about, females are cleaner. And if you guys know anything about urine is super acidic. It's super acidic. So do you think that that's a good or a bad thing if the urine is coming out of the same tube as semen? And remember, sperm is part of semen. Do you think that's good or bad for sperm to survive? Bad. It's bad. Because remember what we talked about on Friday, sperm cannot survive in acidic environments. They can't. So what happens here is this guy, the Cowper's gland, releases this fluid that lubricates the male's urethra and pretty much neutralizes or cleans the male's urethra right before ejaculation. So as the male ejaculates and the semen is passing through, right before the semen passes through that area, the Cowper's gland releases that fluid, boom, and then the rest of the semen go through. So that way, kind of cleans it out, neutralizes it, so that the sperm, again, have a better chance of living. And as mentioned earlier, the fluid from the Cowper's gland is not part of semen. It is a fluid that's released. It's released right before ejaculation to help with the male's urethra. It is not a part of semen. Did I explain that right? Does anybody have any questions? Did anyone get confused or want me to maybe say something, repeat something? Okay. So, what's the penis? Someone said years ago, it's a bone. I was like, no, not a bone. It's not a bone. What's the penis? I'm hoping we just are nervous to talk.
Is it a muscle?
Say that again?
Is it a muscle?
Okay. Yeah, the male genitals. Well, it's not a muscle. It's an organ. Male organ for sexual intercourse. And the penis, it contains this erectile tissue. Okay. And it's kind of like, it's like a sponge-like tissue that can fill with blood. So it contains this erectile tissue, okay? This tissue is sponge-like, and it can fill with blood. What does that sound like? When the penis fills with blood, what does that cause? It's okay. Maybe some of the people here haven't experienced that yet. But who said? What'd you say?
Hardness.
Okay. Anyone know the correct term for getting hard? Yes, erection. Good. Yep. Perfect. Great job. So, I mean, that just gives you the answer. The actual definition of an erection is when the penis fills with blood. That's it. That's the answer, when the penis fills with blood. Now, this happens in a number of different ways in response to thoughts, fantasies, touch, sexual stimulation, and even temperature. Change of temperature, especially at a younger age, and especially could happen during puberty, shortly after, and, could even be years later. Which is why when a male has an erection, this is why it can be painful when they're not able to release and ejaculate, because now their penis is filled with blood and it can be painful. What am I referring to? What's the street term I'm referring to? Anyone know? So I said, when the penis fills with blood and the male is not able to ejaculate, maybe that's because if they're with somebody, that person stops. There you go. Blue balls. Come on. Some of you guys were thinking that. You're just nervous. So this last piece, this last word, and we all know what it is, okay? I'm gonna actually star it. And the reason why I'm starring it is because it's not technically a part of the male reproductive system. It's not. But I'm adding it because I want you guys to remember something. All right, it's an organ that collects urine, right? We know that. Everyone has a bladder. It's not part of the male reproductive system. The reason why I'm adding this in to kind of remind you that when a male has an erection and their penis fills with blood, there's a little flap that flaps over into the right in front of the opening of the bladder, which does not allow the bladder to release urine. Now, this happens for, the main reason of when we're talking about reproduction and keeping sperm alive. If a male has an erection, and we're going way back to talking about reproduction, that bladder gets closed off and pee cannot come out. Why? Why would that be? Based on what I talked about a few moments ago, why would, when somebody has an erection, why would the bladder be closed off so the male cannot pee? Why would that be? Someone want to take a guess?
Because the sperm dies from the urine, the acidity.
There you go. Yep. So, biologically, that would be a smart move to reproduce, right? And give as much chance as possible for sperm to live. So that's why it's hard for males to go to the bathroom when they have an erection. So that's the answer there. Gentlemen, you're welcome. See, you learn something new every day. All right. So it was just these 5 extra things that we did not get to on Friday. What you are going to do for the remainder of the period, okay? And I'm going to go up into your class right now. It is not available yet for you, but I'm going to make it available. In in this week's folder, I'm opening up an assignment to kind of see what you know. Let's see if you took good notes. Let's see if you are listening, and let's see how you do. All right? There might be a few that might be confusing and you might not know the exact locations of it. But I am going to have you, based on your notes, label the image of the male reproductive system. Okay? Again, you do not have to worry so much of getting this wrong. But I will give you 3 chances to do so. All right? So I'm going to show you what this looks like first. I'm going to share my screen here. When you click on the assignment, you're going to have a large image in front of you. Okay, and you have to use the terms down here. Okay, a lot of people think that you have to drag it, like you have to hold it down and move it up, and it can get really annoying. You really don't. You just click it like that, and then you can let go, and it's still highlighted. And then you can scroll up and choose a spot, wherever you want it to go. So just know you don't have to do that. Okay, and you're going to try, based on your notes, to fill this out. My challenge for you, only use your notes. Don't Google anything, because that's how you learn. That's my challenge for you. So it is available now. 3-9 assignment, male diagram is what it's called. You have 3 chances to do it and get it all correct. So when you get your answer back, kind of take a look at it and go from there. Are there any questions at all? So just keep in mind that because you do have 3 chances to get the highest score and you're using your notes, the grade that you do receive will be the grade you get on Sapphire.